Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the afternoon. Joining me today is Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter. It is Charlie O'Connor. What's up today, Chuck?
How's it going?
Oh, it's just another beautiful Thursday here at PHLY.
It's really hot outside.
Today was the first day of the off season where, like, an hour before the show, I text Charlie and I'm just like, I got nothing. I have no idea what we're going to be doing today, so we got to figure something out. But honestly, I think we put together a pretty good show today. But we are deep into the off season, and I don't want to waste my F around Friday topics on non-Fridays. Like, got to save something for tomorrow. But I do think we came up with some good stuff for today. I'm excited for the show, as I always am. I want to start out, though, with something that flat out sucks, honestly. So we found out a week ago.
About a week ago.
Jeff Marek was let go from Sportsnet.
Sportsnet, yeah.
And it was kind of weird because it was like people said draft-related incident. And it was like, oh, they're in Vegas. Like, what the fuck did this guy do?
Yeah, and then I had heard that it
just
had
like
nothing to do with
speculation.
that. I heard it was nothing to do with that.
Okay.
What I had heard, and this popped up in our Discord, was that it was something, basically he had ticked off the rights holders, and that was all that I had heard. It turns out that is exactly what happened.
That's what happened.
But, like, I thought it was like, oh, did he, like, insult someone's wife or something with a joke? Like, how did he tick off the rights holder?
That fucking Ted Turner, man. Let me tell you about him. It turns out it wasn't that. So I guess what this comes down to was pick tipping to a friend.
Well, that is a little bit, that's downplaying it, playing it a little bit.
I read the story. I still don't really get it. What the hell happened, Charlie? Why is Jeff Marek no longer co-hosting 32 Thoughts, the #1 hockey podcast in the world?
Well, probably number 2 behind Chicklets, but definitely one of the top 2. The #1 serious podcast in the hockey podcast in the world, let's say, that is just trying to be like purely journalistic.
There is every single person in hockey media listens to 32 Thoughts.
That is true.
You have to if you want to know what the hell's going on. And obviously, Elliot Friedman, the driver of it, the title of it is the title of his long-running articles.
Yes,
but
that helps.
Marek, huge part of the show as the co-host, and he's now gone from Sportsnet.
So basically what happened, and this was strong reporting by Katie Strang and Dan Robeson of The Athletic, so definitely props to them. Apparently for years, this is one of his friends who used to be a scout in the OHL, now runs his own independent scouting service that is viewed by people who are interested in the draft. That is his thing. He is trying to make this business work. And I guess they've been friends for years. And for years, Marek would leak some of the draft picks before they get officially announced to this guy, so he could report them and essentially break the news of who was being taken. Now, this happens all the time in terms of this is the essence of source journalism. You get someone who gets the information early for whatever reason, and you ask them what's the pick, and then they text you back or they don't. I do it all the time. Every sports journalist does it all the time. The reason why this was unique and why this ticked off the people it ticked off is that there's a difference between me getting the pick 30 seconds early because I have a relationship with a Flyers scout. Mm-hmm. And the Flyers scout knows because he's at the table and he texts me the information and I tweet it out. There's a difference between that and this, because Marek was not getting the information necessarily from the team. He was getting the information from the NHL. Because the way it works is the NHL gives the rights holders, in this case Sportsnet, who broadcast the draft, they give the rights holder and the people that are on air the draft picks a little bit early.
That makes sense.
For functional reasons, because they have to have graphics ready. Yeah. They want to have somebody running to the family. They want to have the camera. The example they put in the article was, why do you think the camera was on Beckett Seneca when they got that great shot of him finding out he was picked? It's because they knew a minute before the pick was announced that Beckett Seneca was going to be the pick, and they were ready. That's why the rights holders get the information a little bit early. Well, Marek was part of that group that would get the information early, and he would then sometimes, not for every single pick, for some picks, he would text the information to his buddy who would then tweet it out and break the news before even anybody on Sportsnet did. Now, this is not new. This is not something that I think anyone in hockey is shocked about. These types of, relationships where you're my buddy, I'll give you this. This happens all the time. Marek had been doing this probably with this guy for years. And the NHL and Sportsnet, maybe they're not thrilled about it, but like whatever. Marek is a good guy. He's a good journalist. He makes Sportsnet a ton of money. He brings a ton of publicity to the NHL. Fine, let him do it if it means, giving a friend a little bit of a boost in terms of trying to make his business and boost his profile on social media. Sure. The extra factor in this is that the draft was in Vegas. And because of that, the NHL, it seems like, was terrified they were terrified to piss off the Vegas Gaming Commission and all of the gambling interests involved. So and maybe they already knew, maybe this was an open secret, or maybe somebody told the wrong person in the NHL, and the NHL then apparently reported it to the Vegas Commission, the Vegas Gaming Board, whatever it's called, and he was immediately pulled off the air while they did an investigation. Presumably, they did figure out that he probably did it because, of course he friggin' did. The circumstantial evidence is pretty strong, and generally speaking, it's no big deal. But because of the added variable of sports betting and the added variable of it being in Vegas, and just the fact that I'm sure the NHL and Sportsnet ideally would not like Marek to do this. There's probably things in his contract that says he can't do it. It's just that for years they've turned a blind eye because it wasn't that big of a deal. Now suddenly the NHL thinks it could be a big deal because you inject sports betting in Vegas into the picture, and then they freak out because they're afraid to piss off the wrong person, and Jeff Marek gets let go. That's more or less what happened.
Listen, we're going to have a sports book read a little later. I'm all for sports gambling being legal because, people are doing it anyway. I don't think any of the sports leagues really knew how stupid this was going to become. And two, what the fuck? Who cares? What is the hold on the NHL draft at if you walk up to a window and be like, I'm going to put 10 grand on the 5th pick in the draft, they're going to go, no, because you know who it is. Nope.
Sorry.
You can take that somewhere else.
Yeah.
If it's an app, what are you putting down? $250 max? They would allow. I just can't imagine that this was a big deal at all.
It seems like an overreaction on everyone's part. I get that
they're trying to walk this line, and because every commercial is a sports betting commercial, and it's where half the money in sports comes from now is all the different ads for sports apps and everything, sports betting apps. I just you didn't think all this through. You really should have. This is causing more problems than it's worth, I feel.
The initial concern, I would assume, on the NHL and Sportsnet and everybody's part, and the Vegas Gaming Board's part, was Marek is texting information to people so they can run out and bet, and then they'll share the pot with Jeff, and it's this whole operation. It certainly seems based upon the reporting, it seems like Jeff giving information to his buddy so his buddy could look like he was plugged in. Because it's not like Jeff even tweeted out himself. It's not even like this was him chasing clout for himself. This was him giving some extra boost to his buddy because they have a long-standing relationship. And I got news for you. That's how source relationships work.
Yes.
How source relationships work is that you over time build relationships with people, and then they know, they don't have to give out this info, but they know, hey, it'll make Charlie O'Connor look smarter if I give him this trade before it comes out. And boom, I get to break a trade, and everybody's like, look how well-sourced Charlie is. That is what Jeff was trying to do with this friend of his. Yeah. He doesn't seem like, at least, he was trying to make money off of it. He was basically just trying to pass along some of his info to make his buddy seem smarter, and he got burned for it.
I just think there's a big difference between, let's just say, before Game 7, Jeff Marek finds out Connor McDavid has a broken leg. It's he's going to skate, but, he can't. Okay, if you share that information and someone goes and bets on that, that's probably crossing a line. This, though, it just seems so dumb. And I guess they're told ahead of time, don't do this.
I'm sure they are. Or at the very least, it's in their contract that they're not allowed to do that.
And
it's proprietary information given by the NHL.
Once Woj, I think, started working with ESPN, it was all right, man, you can't just give the picks away. And now it's like, okay, they're zeroing in on.
It's so ridiculous.
They're really focused. Like he breaks out the thesaurus.
It's so ridiculous.
And like says it without saying it. And I guess that's his little way around it. But also like, I'm fairly certain. Like pick 4 is announced. Let's just pick 4 is announced. Like you cannot still bet pick 5. Like I'm fairly certain there is a time limit on these.
Well,
things.
apparently in Vegas you can't even bet the picks 24 hours. Like
I think it's 24 hours.
But apparently, like in other states, you could in theory. So if you had this, I have this proprietary information and I want to make some extra money on the side, I guess you could. But it doesn't seem like that's what Jeff was doing.
It just seems like what this comes down to is 1, them being extra careful with the gaming commission because they're in Vegas, and 2, the proprietary information. This is Rogers' information.
Yes.
And he's giving it to some guy.
Yes. The one point I will make about this, and then we can close off this one. But look, if this is just something that had to happen because he pissed off the wrong person or whatever, and he had to get let go, okay, it sucks. I don't know Jeff incredibly well, but I've met him. I've been on his show a bunch of times. He's a good dude. I feel like he was treated unfairly in this situation and it was an overreaction. But okay, whatever. You got to let him go. If the NHL, like let's say Jeff in the next couple months gets an offer to work for ESPN or gets an offer to work for TSN or whatever, another company that is a rights holder that has the rights to some type of NHL product in terms of airing it or broadcasting it or whatever. If he gets an offer and then the NHL is like, no, our feelings are hurt because he gave away our information. If you hire him, we'll be pissed at you. They can go fuck themselves because the NHL just let 2 guys back in their system who like allowed for future people to be sexually assaulted. Like, so like if you've said you're okay with that, you better not like put the caboose on Jeff Marek getting another job because you've lost all more high ground whatsoever. Just saying.
It is, of course, the NHL. Like, the product is the best it's been in a long time, I would say. The league is doing well. They finally got out of a college arena and have 32 NHL arenas. Like, I think things are all looking good for the NHL right now. And then it's just like, you do something dumb. Like, they just can't help but like, oh, yeah, well, we're going to make this a big deal. Also, yeah, Coach Q, you're back. Stan, you're back. Like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. But I realize, and like, to compare the two things, I sometimes like, okay, is this really where we, but yeah, you're allowing this guy to work in the league. Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
it's not the best luck.
We can move on from that. Best, obviously, to Jeff Marek. Hopefully he finds something and it's
I was very,
better.
let me put it this way, and I said this on Twitter. I was very relieved when I found out that like, it's not that Jeff was secretly a piece of shit.
Yeah, because he comes off as like I've only ever listened to his pod. I don't know Jeff. He just comes off as a good dude.
And the thing is, like in general, if something like this, when this came out, if he had done anything shitty to anyone in the business, this is when it would have come out. Yeah. Instead, everyone on Twitter is like, nah, Jeff's like the best guy ever.
No, that's like, yes. Like it starts because he's a popular guy, but the avalanche would start if one thing happened. It's like, oh yeah, that one time he screwed me over, and then like roll down the hill.
Instead, no one had
everyone's just like, yeah, Jeff rules.
Like if he was secretly like cheating on his wife or doing shitty things to women, like that's when it would have came out. Yep. Because everyone's looking for a reason, and it's like, well, actually, this guy you think is great is a piece of shit, and none of that came out, which tells me he's probably legitimately a really good guy.
But anyway, yeah, that's the Jeff Marek. I was just like, I read the story and I was like, I don't fully get why he doesn't work here anymore. Anyway, all right, so that's the Jeff Marek conversation. Something else I'm confused about, Charlie. That's the running theme, I guess, today. Shit, Bill's confused.
Bill's confusion.
Bill's confused. Why are we hearing... And again, you and I probably just spend way too much time on Twitter. Listen, I work there. I got to get show ideas from Twitter.
Of course.
And certainly I did today. Why are we hearing so much from fans of the Montreal Canadiens?
It's actually really funny.
Like this, they seem obsessed with the Flyers and Danny Briere. Like, is this all about them passing on Mishkov? Is this about the summer of 2007 when Danny signed here and not there? Why is it like a thing for Habs fans right now to be really pumping up their own tires by comparing themselves to another team that isn't trying to win. Like this is like that mid-off meme. Like they're having a mid-off. These two having a mid-off. Like they finished 8th in their division like 3 years in a row. The Flyers just had their best season in years by almost making the play. Like we have two teams that stink. What is going on here that they have suddenly made us their rival, Charlie? Why is this happening?
Yeah, it's entirely Matvei Michkov. It is 100% entirely Matvei Michkov. So to give you the background here, really what it is that Matvei Michkov started slipping in last year's draft. The Montreal Canadiens had picked number 5. The assumption on the part of online Montreal fans was that, oh my God, we're going to get Matvei Michkov. This is the greatest thing ever. Instead, they take David Reinbacher, who, like, not a bad prospect. I think the general consensus was he doesn't have superstar upside. He's more of a, like, swinging for a bunt rather than a home run. Like, yeah, maybe he can be a top pair defenseman, but, like, he's not going to be like Alex Pietrangelo. Like, he could be a good defenseman. So, first, Montreal fans went batshit on their front office. That was the initial reaction. It was all of that anger and frustration. And some of that still exists, to be clear. There are some Montreal fans that are still like, this is insane that you didn't take Michkov and you took Reinbacher, who didn't even have that great of a draft plus 1 year anyway. So the anger's still there. Then Montreal started selectively leaking their reasons for not taking Michkov. And it really settled in on two things that they tried a bunch of different lines, but they really settled on two that I think they realized were the most acceptable to Montreal fans. Number one was, we don't think he's as good as everyone else does. Our evaluation is that, his game isn't going to translate as well as y'all think. The second one was, we have inside information that Michkov is a piece of shit. That's where a lot of the info about Michkov having problems with teammates, it's all stemming from Montreal, because my understanding is that I think it's Montreal's scouting director or one of their top scouts has deep connections with SKA St. Petersburg. Okay. And the assumption is that he heard from people with SKA that Michkov is a piece of shit, and that's why we took him off our board. So that all came out. Then it became, there were some people in the Montreal online fan base that continued to shit on the Canadiens for passing on Michkov, but some turned to, actually the Canadiens were right and Michkov is overrated and he's not going to be that good. It really got kicked off. That group got sent into the stratosphere though when Montreal then took Demidov. Because then suddenly it became, well, our Russian is better than your Russian for all the reasons that the organization has been feeding us for a year. And actually Demidov is better than Michkov because we think he is, because he's our guy. And Flyers fans on Twitter, who of course are never ones to shy away from a fight, are going back at Montreal fans with full force about how it's insane that you're arguing that Demidov is better than Michkov, given the fact that Michkov is doing this in the KHL and Demidov has been doing this in the Russian Junior League. Look, we don't know yet who's going to be the better player. However, the preponderance of statistical evidence would imply that Michkov is the superior prospect at this moment in time, given that one guy's doing it against pros and one guy's doing it against junior hockey players.
It would lead you to think that. But again, I never make myself out to be some prospect expert. I have no goddamn idea. And honestly, I have no idea what's going on in Montreal overall. I know of the Reinbacher and Michkov situation. Thanks. But I simply do not concern myself with the Canadiens. If I were to write out a list of teams I don't like and a list of teams I do like, I don't know if Montreal is on either list.
Yeah, they're just a whatever team.
They're just there.
I really like Montreal as a city, one of my favorite cities.
They have cool jerseys.
Yeah.
Little look behind the curtain here. Might be a trip coming up.
Could be.
But this kind of makes me want to do it more now. I'm going to be honest with you. If this is a possibility, it would be a lot of fun. I can't imagine being in their situation. Full rebuild, last place every year. And worrying about another team that's also, I don't know, man, worry about the Leafs. Like they seem to be, they're right there.
Yeah.
Like, I just
no. To
it's
be clear,
crazy to me that they care at all about the Flyers.
This is entirely
it's not 1976.
This is entirely Montreal fan driven.
Yes,
like and there's a guy who purports to be a draft expert who really is just a Montreal Canadiens fan who has also sparked this. I'm not going to say his name because I don't particularly respect his opinions, but he basically said, I think on a podcast, that like he's actively rooting for Michkov to fail because like I guess normal. it would be good for the Canadiens if Michkov failed. Like he's a Habs fan. He's a Habs fan who purports to be objective, but he's not.
Not for Reinbacher to succeed and exceed all expectations. Michkov needs to fail. Because clearly they fucked up the pick.
Exactly. So that's an
admission that you fucked up the pick.
This is entirely from Montreal's side. And Flyers fans, well, like I definitely can roll my eyes at Flyers Twitter on numerous occasions. They are very much battling back. Like they are reacting to the craziness of Habs fans on Twitter. This is not Flyers fans really like, ha ha, you didn't take Michkov. It is Habs fans having a meltdown because their team didn't take Michkov, and Flyers fans being like you can't actually seriously believe that Demidov is a better prospect than Michkov, right? Like you don't actually think that. Like this is all an extended bit, right? You're not that crazy.
Like it's now like I've just seen so much about like Danny specifically. Like, oh my God, have you seen his re-signings? I'm like, yes, very closely. They're fine. Like I don't even particularly like the TK contract. It's not bad. Like I don't know if it's good. We'll see. Like only time will tell if he ages well.
Yeah.
But in the next 4 years, it's probably completely fine. Like the Fedotov thing is what it is. They had to pay him to leave the league.
Yeah, exactly.
You had to get him over here. Yeah. And right now, cap space doesn't matter, so I don't give a shit.
Really what it boils down to is people on Twitter like to win arguments.
What is
So this has become an argument, and it started with just Michkov. Then it became Michkov versus Demidov. Now it is who is the better franchise. Which is insane.
You're the Yankees. Why do you care about anyone?
It's Flyers social media. It's hockey social media. It's insane.
The Montreal Canadiens are the New York Yankees. Like, you shouldn't give a shit about anyone. Yeah. It should be your league, and it's like, I used to work on You Better You Bet with Nick Costos, and he's a Yankees fan, and he's just like, I believe that the World Series is my birthright, and everyone else is just kind of playing in my league for second place. Like, that's okay. But that's how Canadiens fans should feel. You're the Montreal Canadiens.
I do think, too, that this does speak to an inherent difference between Montreal fans and Philadelphia fans. Not Flyers fans. I'm talking about, like, Philadelphia fans in general. Because in these types of situations, like, Philadelphia fans would not let their organization off the hook. Yeah, it's not. I'm going to go back to the Eagles. Like, Philadelphia Eagles fans did not come around fully on Brandon Graham until he literally directly led to a title.
Made the biggest play in franchise history.
It's not like they spent the entirety of the 2010s trying to argue with Seattle Seahawks fans that actually Brandon Graham was better than Earl Thomas. They spent the entirety of the 2010s yelling at the Eagles for passing on Earl Thomas.
Earl Thomas breaks his leg. It's like, yeah, way to go, Howie. No, it's still not a good pick.
Yeah, like Philadelphia fans would turn all of their anger on the front office, not decide to create actually our guy is better debate with the team that picked the guy they all really, really wanted in the first place.
We now have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, and people are still like, fucking Jalen Reagor, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are we still worried about that? Yep, they are.
So I do think that is an inherent difference between Philadelphia fans, which, like, we naturally are going to blame our teams.
Yes.
Whereas other fan bases, like Cowboys fans, are the same way. They blame everyone else.
That's the thing is, like, when people, I said this the other day, when people like try to talk shit about me, talk shit about the Flyers to me, I'm like, no one talks more shit about the Flyers than me. Like, you can't possibly offend me by telling me they're a bad organization. I agree. I've made it a career. Yeah, they haven't won a cup since 75. I know. I bring it up all the time. I'm pissed about it. There's nothing I can do about it, though. Yeah. If there was, I would.
Yeah.
Did it ever, and then we got to get to the reads.
Right.
Did it ever come out? Because I know there was a thing, like, Michkov may have kind of orchestrated his fall a little bit. by saying like, yeah, I ain't going to Arizona. Get the fuck out of here. Did he ever tell Montreal, no, I'm not signing? At least it's going to be 3 years.
I have not heard anything about that. What I do know is that the Flyers were the only team he visited. So he clearly had a destination in mind. But I have heard that he specifically told Arizona,
yeah.
Don't draft me. I'm not signing with you, which, like, fair.
Yeah.
Totally understandable.
They don't exist anymore.
I have never heard that he specifically told Montreal that I will not sign with you. I had heard, though, at the draft, after that happened, that Montreal specifically was selling the argument that they didn't want Mitchkov for reasons. Okay. So I guess it theoretically could have been like I'm not, you're not breaking up with me, I'm breaking up with you first kind of thing. But I have heard nothing to tell me that Mitchkov straight up told Montreal, I will not sign with you. I do think he probably did not go out of his way to like interview with them and tell them how much he wanted to be a Hab, the same way he did with the Flyers. But I do not think he straight up told Montreal, no, I won't play for you.
Okay. All right. And now it is time for me to tell you about one of our newest partners here. And if you think I've been saying that a lot, it's true. I have. We have a bunch of new partners. Things are popping off here at PHLY. Just had our best month ever for a number of metrics. And I think it's really starting to catch on here that with our advertisers, because we have yet another new partner I want to tell you about. And it's a damn good one. Ace Hardware Home Services. That's right. Our friends at Ace Hardware, they got that, man. That's what they want to that's what they want me to let you know. It's about all the services that Ace Hardware provides. Like, say you got a leaky pipe. Well, at Ace Hardware Home Services, they're around the block with everything you need to fix it yourself, including maybe you aren't all that handy. I know certain things I just can't do. Quite a few of them, in fact. They have the person to do the fixing for you. Got air conditioning issues. They've got a person for that. I know I just recently ended up at, like 2 weeks ago, ended up at Ace Hardware. What a time for your air conditioner to go when it was like 96, feels like 109 every day for 2 weeks. Yeah, my AC went right in the middle of that. And I was like, oh, good. Can't wait to drop thousands of dollars on this thing. Go over to Ace Hardware, tell them the problem. They tell me what to do. They're like, bring me this thing. I bet you it's this part. Pop it open, take it out, bring it to them. They're like, oh, yeah, we got that. $14. Thought I was going to have to spend thousands. It ended up being like $14, I think, after tax. If you've got a faucet that you said, maybe, I'll get to that at some point, they've got a person to get to it for you now because Ace isn't just the place with the helpful hardware, folks. I'll get that sentence out. They're also the helpful home service and repair folks. From plumbing to heating and cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. Ace Hardware Services, we're bringing helpful home the helpful you love from the store now to your front door. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get you started on your next project. And the reason I'm really excited to say this, Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks. That was really
a great tagline.
It's a great tagline. Tremendous.
Yeah.
And while we're here, let me tell you about our friends at Rite Aid and that LO Market that I've been telling you about. All these exclusively branded Rite Aid products available at all your local Rite Aids, including candy, snacks, and pantry items. The product line includes candy with classics like peach rings and starlight mints to gummy butterflies and sour worms. They've got nuts and trail mixes if you're looking for all those healthy fats and fiber and protein and all that nonsense. Outstanding popcorn variety of flavors. Beef jerky packed with protein. You know I love me some beef jerky. Granola with whole grains. Pantry staples like honey and seasoning. If you're looking for it, you got to go to Rite Aid and shop that LO Market, the exclusive line of Rite Aid products. If you've got that snack attack, get LO Market delivered same day or buy online or pick up in store. Go to riteaid.com/shop to order. That's riteaid.com/shop. Make sure you get those LO Market products. All right.
We got to talk about this before we get into Thursday because
will something happen?
Yeah, well,
Did they trade for Zegers?
We have some news.
Okay.
It's not like incredibly pertinent news for the Flyers specifically, but it is Flyers related.
So does this mean I get to do the Indeed read?
Wait, I think you've already done 2 reads.
This emergency segment is brought to you by Indeed. Listeners to this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. That's Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Sure. Okay,
All right,
let's
why
go
not?
with it. The news is, it's already been discussed in our chat. The New Jersey Devils have made a hire as their senior advisor to the president of hockey operations and general manager.
No.
Chuck is back.
No.
He's back.
Yes! Yes!
Chuck Fletcher.
Oh, my God.
Has been hired as a senior advisor to the New Jersey Devils. I mean, look, of course, like, social media is losing its mind right now. What I will say is that this is like such a great thing on so many levels, because here's my thing. Chuck Fletcher, I think, is legitimately a really good guy. I'm happy that he found a job in hockey after getting let go.
With the Devils, I'm real happy.
I don't think he's ever going to get a GM job again after GMs can get a second job. They rarely get a third unless they have a cup, and he obviously doesn't.
He's never been to a conference final.
Yeah, so I'm happy he got a job because he's a good guy, and like, we could use good people in the game. So cool. If you think Chuck Fletcher is an unfathomably bad general manager, as many people in the Flyers world think, it's probably a good thing that he's advising a division rival.
Maybe this is. I mean, you know how like people on Twitter. I can't remember who started it, but it's like a team should pay me $1 million a year to just be like, you know, 3 times.
Micah Blake McCurdy, yeah.
Like 3 times a year.
Don't do that.
Just be like, don't do that.
Yeah.
And maybe he's their don't do that guy. Like, yo, Chuck, what do you think? Oh, I think that's a great idea. All right, we're crossing that off the list then. Like, maybe, just maybe. Listen, he's another one that, like, I think Chuck Fletcher stinks. I was opening the thesaurus. Like, I was looking for, you know, synonyms for buffoon every day. But like, he did have one really good offseason.
Yeah,
and
he did.
There's no way to foresee what happened with Ryan Ellis. But it's just like all the dumb shit that just kept happening. It was like, dude, even if you're not responsible, someone's got to be held responsible for this, and it was him.
It is. And look, and
not being able to trade JVR on an expiring contract, being able to retain 50% was just like, how?
Yeah.
How? I don't care if it was for any. You get something. You're a horrible team. You're going to be picking 5th. Like, you need to get something.
I think there were points over the 2-month period leading up to the trade deadline where he could have gotten something for JVR. He thought that offers are going to come in late. They never did. And then he was the guy left holding the bag. He was the guy who lost musical chairs. And that is, objectively speaking, very embarrassing. I mean, to me, the biggest mess up of the Chuck Fletcher tenure, which is one that we very much are still dealing with, is the Rasmus Ristolainen trade and then subsequent re-signing. Like, that was, and I mean, that was the moment, understandably, where I think he lost, especially the online portion of the fan base. Like, he lost them. And the funny part is that trade and signing actually worked out better than I even envisioned it could. And even, like, what I would consider to be like a 20% best case scenario outcome still involves a dramatically overpaid Rasmus Ristolainen. And like, it was such a dumb move from the moment it was made, both the trade and then especially the extension, that like, that move on its own probably is deserving of a fire. The belief in a player where all of the available evidence told you he's bad, and you're like, nah, he's good. And not only do we think he's good, we're going to give up a first-round pick plus for him and then sign him to a massive contract extension after watching him be objectively bad on our team for a year.
You know, it's funny that this is the thing that comes up right now, because I told you, like, I didn't have a whole lot going on for the subject of today's show, Charlie, but we did get from one of our regular listeners and contributors a suggestion for a theme for today.
Okay.
Thirsty Thursday.
Thirsty Thursday.
You know, I love alliteration and just making that
and
into,
drinking.
Yes, of course. And turning that into just show themes based on, like, okay, this rhymes. How can I now turn this into a show theme? So Thirsty Thursday from Ethan Freeman. He suggested, he sent me this tweet. Love the themes y'all are using for PHLY Flyers shows during these dead days of summer. I'm advocating for Thursdays to be Thirsty Thursdays, and you guys talk about the players/stars we wish were on the Flyers. And then he adds, while slamming back Coors, of course. And yeah, man, choose chill. And I don't know how maybe we'll turn this into a thing. But the first thing I really thought of, like, I mean, there's so many guys. Like, yeah, give me all the good players, stuff like that.
Every single good player.
But like I've mentioned previously that there's this alternate timeline where the Philadelphia Flyers are in the position that the Dallas Stars are in, which is perennial cup contender.
There is.
And it goes back to 2017, but there's more than that. So what I'm thirsty for, and you can take this in any direction. I have a couple of things, but what I'm thirsty for is this alternate timeline in which we are in this position of the Dallas Stars. We can go back to 2017 draft. That's the big one. We take Nolan Patrick. The very next pick is Mira Heiskanen. We said yesterday, like, yeah, Cale Makar rules too. But he's there, and he's the one apparently the scouts wanted.
Yes.
Now, Bobby Clark will tell you they wanted Makar, but Bobby Clark doesn't know shit about drafting anyone.
I just don't think Bobby Clark Bob Clark was in the room.
Yeah.
Bob Clark probably, and my understanding of this is that Clarkey knew that there was a defenseman that they wanted over Patrick, and he picked the better of the two.
The one who was making the headlines.
Because he was very, very angry at Ron Hextall at the time. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then later in that draft, we remember the Flyers trade back into the first round, and it's like, oh, it's Eli Tolvanen. Oh, no, it's Morgan Frost. One pick before Morgan Frost, they get Jake Ottinger. Now, sure, we had Carter Hart at the time, but like, oh, Jake Ottinger.
He looked good right now.
Jake Ottinger's pretty
real
damn good
right now.
He looked real good right now. And then the one that maybe kills me the most, because Isaac Ratcliffe was my guy. Isaac Ratcliffe goes 35. Flyers trade up to get him. Jason Robertson goes 39.
That's killer.
That draft right there, it's a totally different team.
Yeah.
That draft right there.
One draft.
Now, all right, 2018, we did take Farabee one pick after Ty Dellandrea,
who just got traded to San Jose.
I always want to say Dale Andrea, but no, it's Dellandrea. I'll take that one. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, Farabee was the better, is going to be the better player. I mean, Dellandrea might be a bottom sixer if he hits, but Farabee is a clear cut, at least a good middle six forward, and might be a top six forward.
2019, we take Cam York at 14. I like Cam York, good player. They take Thomas Harley at 18.
Yeah, I like Thomas Harley more.
I think I would take Thomas Harley.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think they win that one.
Yeah.
And then 2021, this one, I mean, you have to really squint to see it, but they take Wyatt Johnson at 23. We traded our first, which was 13th, 14th overall, depending on how you want to order it, because there was no pick 11.
Right.
For Risto. And then at 46, we get Samu Tuamala. They get Logan Stankoven at 47.
Ouch.
And then, of course, they also drafted at 48 that year, and they take Artem Grushnikov. Now, who the hell's that? Hasn't played in the NHL yet. Well, they just traded him in the 3-team trade that landed him Chris Tanev.
Okay,
so, like, the good version of what Risto, like, what they think Risto is, that guy. They get him, too, in that same, with the same
with the
year's
asset
draft
accumulation.
Pick.
Right,
like,
right.
My God. Even if you want to swap the Farabee one, like, all right, that's a miss.
Yeah, like, I'll deal with Dellandrea.
I'll take the like, God damn it.
Yeah.
If we could just be the Stars in the exact same timeline.
Yeah.
God damn it, man.
Yeah. It's a fair point.
This shows you how thin the line is. Flyers rebuilding might take a while. We don't really see the path, maybe. And then the Stars, yeah, man, they could win the Cup this year, next year, year after. Like, they're probably going to win one. Good chance. They're at least going to go to another conference final, go to a cup. Like, they're so good.
If you have 3 really good drafts, you're going to be a cup contender.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, yes, some of that is absolutely scouting ability, having the right people, having the right GM who can, hear everyone's voice in the room and go with the person who is the most intelligent, who makes the strongest case. To be sure, that's part of it. A lot of it also is luck.
Sure.
It is. A lot of it is luck.
There's no way to know Jason Robertson's going to be this.
Yeah.
There's no way to know, oh, yeah, Stanko, and he's going to be.
Not for sure.
Yeah, like, you can. Everyone is sure, like, oh, no, that's my guy. Like, there's no way to know. You are throwing darts. Yes, it's clear that they're good at this. Like,
Yeah.
I think after 17, 18, 21, like,
To be sure,
they're pretty damn good at this.
But also, they've missed on guys too. It's just when they've hit big.
Their hits aren't just like, oh yeah, we found a guy.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, it's a shitty draft. We got a Scott Lawton. That's a nice pick in the 20s, whatever. It's like, oh no, we found several dudes and not just in the first round. Yeah. And when you hit outside the first round is when you hit home runs. Like, because your first rounders are going to be something probably, you know, they're going to, even if they're not stars, they're going to be NHL players. Like, they're probably going to be something.
Exactly.
And then you find a dude in the second, third. It's like, well, fuck.
Well, and look at Tampa. Like, yeah, you can point to Tampa and you can say, well, Hedman was a top 5 pick. Stamkos was a first overall pick. And yes, like that is your superstar core. Yeah. You also get Kucherov in the second. You get Braden Point in the third. You get Vasilevsky in the late first, which, like, yeah, it's still a first-round pick, but we're complaining that having the 14th pick isn't enough, or the 13th pick isn't enough. Like, they got him, I believe, in, like, the early 20s, something like that. Late teens, early 20s, something like that.
The Flyers are awesome in the 20s. That's where they do their best work by far. It's these early picks they keep screwing up.
So, okay, so there are a lot of different ways we can take this Thirsty Thursday thing, because you're taking it as who am I thirsty for now?
Yes.
Like it's popped up in the chat. Like, I wish the Flyers could trade for Quentin Byfield.
Sure.
I don't think they can. I wish they could. I'm going to take this in a little bit of a different direction, because I'm going to go back and look at players who I really wanted them to get at the time that I do think they could have gotten. I'm going back to the conversation we had yesterday about
the time machine,
about the Pronger thing, and about how they were trying to recreate Pronger in the aggregate, and they kept bringing in like worse and worse defensemen to try to replace Pronger. And instead of addressing the problem, they just made their defense worse and worse by bringing in more and more bad players. One guy who during that stretch who I really think was available, because Toronto was real stupid back then and he was constantly in trade rumors, was Jake Gardiner. There were multiple offseasons where Jake Gardiner was in every trade rumor in the world, and I think Toronto was itching to trade him for a first-round pick or a second-round pick and a decent prospect or something. They clearly did not like him. They were not sold on him because he was an analytics guy who was a puck mover, who wasn't physical. But when he was on the ice, Toronto did well. They never moved him ultimately. The Flyers instead traded for guys like Grossman and McDonald. I, year after year, was like, get Jake Gardiner. And I don't know. Like, Jake Gardiner, in retrospect, he was not going to become a number 1 defenseman. But he would have been a lot better than the guys they got. And maybe those early Claude years would have had a little bit more help on the back end if they would have traded for an actual good defenseman instead of multiple bad defensemen.
Oh, man. That's the thing. Like, no matter, they had some decent forward cores, and like I'm looking at like this time period here for Gardiner, 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, where he has a combined 125 points in 226 games, and he's a plus 52 in those 3 years. It's like, yeah, even those years when like they had some pretty decent forward cores, and you just look at the D and be like, who thought that this was a playoff? Like, you think you can compete like this, and it was just an absolute joke. But even the years before that,
he was good. And it was just, to me, it was an example of, like, we talked about this with Buffalo and Ottawa this year, where you had like 2 front offices like poised to do something stupid.
Yes.
Those Dave Notice GM'd Toronto teams were constantly poised to do something stupid, such as like
they just needed a push.
The David Clarkson signing. Like, they were constantly doing dumb things. And I just wish the Flyers would have been the team to take advantage of their obvious backward stupidity. And they just never did. Because they were also run poorly.
That was the way I was initially going to take this. And I was like, who are the guys that I absolutely thought like, they're going to do this and it's going to be so goddamn stupid. I was convinced that they were going to sign David Clarkson. I was like, it just makes... Yeah. He's such a Flyer, like this power forward, net front guy. He's tough as shit. Like, doesn't matter that we already have Wayne Simmons. They're going to get another one. Now we have 2 of... Like, we have Hartnell. We have him. We have... Like, it's going to be perfect. It just made... It was such a bad idea. I was just convinced they were going to do it. And when he signed with Toronto, I was just so thankful. I was like, yes, they didn't do the dumb thing. Like, thank God they did not do this.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of the ways I was going to take this.
He did fit the Flyers
just
mold.
Perfect. Like, oh, yeah, let's overpay this guy who's absolutely going to break down because his whole job is getting cross-checked in the back.
Yeah.
Like, that's
fair point. I think that the thing that might have saved them on that front is that they already had Simmons.
Yes.
If they didn't have Simmons, I bet they do try to outbid Toronto for Clarkson. The guy who I had a similar fear about later, that this was a few years down the road, but it was the first year of the Chuck Fletcher tenure, and they had made it abundantly clear that they were prioritizing the acquisition of maybe not just one, but multiple right-handed shooting defensemen. I was terrified that they were going to throw a boatload of money at pending UFA Tyler Myers because he shot right-handed and was really, really tall. And there are a few things that traditional hockey men love more than defensemen who are really, really tall.
Tyler Myers is still making good money in the league. And he, like I was saying to you before the show, he is going to play longer than Jágr simply because GMs are going to keep paying him to be as tall as he is.
Yeah.
Like, God, if he ever, like, I hope he drinks his milk. Like, if he ever gets osteoporosis and starts shrinking, it's over.
It's over.
But, like, that dude, he is just tall, and he's always going to be tall.
Yeah, he's always going to be tall.
Always going to be a place for him. That said, like, one of the guys I was thirsty to just really see work out, I was all about Oliver Lauritsen.
Oh, the Great Dane.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's he had that first career goal where he like took a shot that went so wide and bounced off the boards and just somehow ended up in the net. And it was like, man, if he ever gets that thing under control, like he is not Fulton Reed. That was just absolute freaking luck. All right, before we go any further, I got to tell you about the BetParx Sportsbook and the casino app that you're able to download right now with BetParx. BetParx has your seat at the table with a live dealer for all your favorite classic casino games right on your phone. And right now, you can play live Baccarat, live roulette, blackjack, all with a live dealer, plus hundreds of exciting online slots. And you can make your downtime fun time. BetParx is a proud official betting operator of the PGA Tour. I'm not necessarily a golf guy, but when I see people betting these top fives, top tens, the finishes, the head-to-heads, it looks like a whole lot of fun. Well, all that and more is available for PGA wagering right on the BetParx app. Download the BetParx app and enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino right at your fingertips. Odds, bets, slots, and games right in your pocket, and a great offer for new users. New users download the BetParx online casino and sportsbook app right now and get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Casino bonus must be wagered. BetParx.com for details. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, Ohio, or Michigan. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You love to play. You play to win. You bet. BetParx. And while we're here, man, I know this guy over here, he is working his ass off, even in these summer months, to bang out the content for you diehards. And that's what he did today. The last couple of days, putting out these mailbag articles.
Two-part mailbag. Always have the diehard section and then the section for like people on Twitter. The diehard one came out yesterday. The free for all one came out today.
If you want to be featured in one of Charlie's monthly diehard mailbags,
monthly diehard
all
mailbags. You
got to do is go to allphly.com and sign up, and he has to answer your questions. It's like part of the deal. You ask him a question in the Discord, and he has to feature it in the monthly mailbag. That's the way it goes. Plus, so many other benefits of being a diehard. You get all the premium content from our all-star roster of writers, including this guy right over here, Charlie O'Connor. You get access to that Discord where you can talk a little more sanely about the Flyers than maybe you can on social media. Just maybe a tad.
I have heard we have a new celebrity that joined the Discord.
Do we?
One Kelly Hinkle.
Kelly
has joined the Discord.
Yep. Well, there you go right there. You can talk to Kelly Hinkle if you become a diehard. Plus, discounts on merch and events. You get a free shirt when you sign up. All of that available at allphly.com. But now, Charlie, I want to get to your free mailbag. Some of the questions from your free mailbag article that came out today. He does one, free for all, one for just the diehards, answering diehard questions.
Right.
Let's get to some of the free ones because I don't want to give away the premium content. Sign up for that stuff. Yeah. This first one I wanted to get to, I thought was real interesting. From AJ Yonderly. What's the timeline for the next 5 prospects to make the team? And I appreciated, like, okay.
I interpreted this as the next top
wave.
Five, the next top 5, like the top 5 best prospects they have after Michkov.
What is their timeline?
Because Michkov is obviously making the team.
Yes, he is still a prospect. He's Calder eligible. He has not played a game yet, but, like, he's probably going to play 17 minutes a game for the team this year, maybe on the top line.
Briere has straight up said he ain't seeing time.
He's not going to the AHL.
I imagine that was part of the negotiation.
I can't imagine the dude would come here and do this if it was like, yeah, you got to ride the bus in Allentown.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm going to. Like, I might be playing for Ska this year.
I'll stay home.
I'm not doing that. So it's the non-Michkov prospects, because the timeline for Michkov is, October 11th. Where do we go from there? Like, I like that you narrowed, okay, these are the 5 then.
Right. The 5 I had were Oliver Bonk, Samu Tuamala, Emil Andrae, Jet Lushenko, and Denver Barkey. Those were the 5 and we'll have Alex Appleyard and I will have our updated top 20 prospects list out probably sometime either at the end of this month or the beginning of September, because we do 2 a year. We do one after the World Juniors, and then we do one in the summer leading into rookie camp after the new draft class and development camp and whatever. So that will be on the way. So I don't know what our ranking is ultimately going to be, but if I had to guess, I think those are going to be probably the top 5, with Kolosov being the only one who maybe has a shot at breaking it, but also we don't know what the status of Kolosov is, so that will probably play a role in at least where I will rank him, because there's serious uncertainty there. So those are your 5.
Those are your 5. Let's just answer it this way. Who's the next one to make the NHL?
I think Andrae is the closest.
I don't mean get a game, get a call up. Who is the next regular NHLer?
I think
Andrae
is the closest, because Bonk is going back to juniors. I think they would like Samu Tuamala to get another year in the AHL. Jet Lushenko obviously is going back to juniors for at least 1 more year, if not 2, although we'll see how his draft plus 1 year goes. And Denver Barkey is a child. So, he's taking some time. So Emil Andrae is the only one who I could realistically, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm saying that if you told me that Emil Andrae is an every night NHL defenseman by the second half of the season, I'd be like, yeah, that. I'm not necessarily predicting it's going to happen, but it wouldn't at all shock me. Where if any of the other players out of that 5 were regulars in the NHL in the second half of the season, I would be very surprised. So I think Andrae is the closest.
Andrae is the closest. And this, I think, fits in with another question that you had. Maybe it's not in this one. Oh, here it is from Jordan941941. Help me project Emil Andrae. Does he slot in as a second pair D-man, third pair power play specialist, something more? He had a great AHL season by all accounts, so wondering if the smooth transition changed his projectability. And I know you took a little bit.
I pushed back a little bit on that.
Yeah,
that I don't
know about great.
I don't think it was a great. It was a good AHL season.
Yeah,
it wasn't. If it was a great AHL season, I think he would have a chance to make the team out of camp. Whereas I think he is a serious long shot, because it wasn't a great AHL season. It was a good AHL debut.
And I will say, maybe if they didn't have Drysdale, and it's we have this undersized guy that we need to find out if he works on the power play. I know last year at one point I was like, looks like Andre's putting up a bunch of power play points in the AHL, and our power play is operating at around 6.9%.
Nice.
So
maybe,
we want to give this guy a shot. But now it's all right, we want to find out if Drysdale can do it. We want to find out if York can do it. We'll see about these things. I don't know if he has that shot this year, but what is he ultimately, do you think?
I still like him as a potential second pair defenseman. I will say that I was a bit higher on him this time last year, in part because the possibility this time last year was there for him to break the door down and make the NHL right out of camp, or earn his way up the NHL ladder by the midpoint of last season and establish himself as an NHLer. And the fact of the matter is that the sooner a guy makes the NHL, the more likely it is that he's going to be an impact player. The fact that Andrae did not, it does lower my expectations of his North American career because he just didn't do it. Doesn't mean he can't be a little bit of a late bloomer. Doesn't mean that I'm writing him off. I still think he could be a top 4 NHL defenseman. It's just that I had in my mental image of plausible outcomes for Emil Andrae, I had like 5% he could be Chemo Tiemann in 2.0. He could blow everyone away at camp. His game translates perfectly, and he's a full-time NHLer in his first full North American season, and we're like, holy shit, this guy could be really good. I've more or less erased that as a possibility. His game translated okay. He scored at a solid rate in his first North American season. He's still a quality prospect. I still think he's one of the Flyers' top 5 best prospects, but I maybe don't think that he has the same ceiling that I hoped he might have this time last year. I still like him, but I just don't have the same, man, he could be a real diamond in the rough who shocks everybody. I'm more skeptical that's a possibility now.
I will say that the Chemo Tiemann in comparison, like who knows? Chemo Tiemann was freaking awesome. Andrae doesn't turn 23 until I think February, late February. Tiemann's first year in the league, 23. Doesn't play an 82-game season until 25. It's possible.
It can happen.
It's possible.
Duncan Keith was a late bloomer. Late bloomers happen. I'm just saying that it went from being like, man, that would be cool to that would be a miracle.
That would be, it's like, I wouldn't say off the table, just less likely.
Exactly.
All right.
Think in terms of probabilities. That's the way I think about all of these things. I don't think in terms of certainties. I think in terms of probabilities.
Ultimately, if he is a guy who plays 16, 18 minutes a night, depending on, how many power plays they get, but is a real good, like, power play 2 guy, that's a hell of a pick.
It's solid. The solid second round.
That's a really good pick.
I would say if he is let's say he's a number 4 defenseman who can help out on power play too. It's a good second round pick. Yeah.
All right. Let's get. Actually, first, before we do that, let me thank all of our PHLY diehards. I'm telling you guys to sign up. You go to allphly.com right now and sign up to be a diehard. But the ones who already have, you're our MVPs. You're the ones who keep this thing running, keeping the trains on time, etc. We couldn't do what we do here at PHLY or ALLCITY in general without our diehards. I think we actually have a bunch of super chats, so let's get to those.
Some pop up.
And if you want to read Charlie's mailbag, allphly.com, it's all written down for you.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our first diehard, or our first super chat from Dylan Phillips. Is it likely that after Torts heads upstairs, Shaw becomes the head coach? Seems like the likely candidate. Doesn't seem as though JT is going to be head coach for long. I don't think he's going to be coach for very long. That said, the Flyers have very rarely, like ever, not gone with a name.
Yeah.
Like Dave Haxtell is very much an outlier.
Yeah.
Like, I guess, they did promote Bill Barber once. Also, Bill Barber's in the fucking Hall of Fame and won 2 cups with this team.
Right.
So, like,
he was in the club.
Yeah, he's in the club. He's part of the club.
Yeah.
And, like, you just look at Mike Keenan, Roger Nielsen, like, all these guys throughout the years. These are names. John Tortorella, Peter Laviolette, Ken Hitchcock.
That's what they do.
And
they're trying to bring back the being a Flyer.
This is who coaches this team.
Yeah.
So I would be a little surprised. It is also surprising to me that, like, maybe he's had some interviews, but Brad Shaw seems like a damn good coach, and we haven't really heard his name come up, and it's been like a concern. Like, hey, man.
I think it's an overblown concern on the part of the fans.
Okay.
My understanding is I think he got some interviews, at least one interview 2 off seasons ago. So the 2023 off season after his first year in Philly. I actually reported this in early June, that at least as recently as early June, he hadn't had any interviews this summer, which was weird because, like, the penalty kill was dramatically improved, and like Sean Walker, like he did a great job.
Sean Walker,
if there was an award, and I honestly would have no problem if they created this. If there was an award for best assistant coach in the NHL that year, I think you could have made a strong case that Brad Shaw was the best assistant coach in the NHL last year.
The NFL does, like, coordinator awards now, don't they?
Do they?
I think they do. But, like, I don't know. I don't know who other teams.
I think fans are overly concerned that Bradshaw is going to get poached. He's on the older side. A lot of teams want fresh blood, and also like he's on the older side and he's never been a head coach. A lot of teams look at that as
we are while like
there's a reason why he's not a head coach, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
While it seems like front offices are still like the old boys club, and everyone gets like Jesus Christ, Chuck Fletcher just got a job, It seems as if there's a little bit more of a trend for the coaching to like, let's find a new guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's either find a new guy or hire a big name established guy, not hire an older guy who's never been able to establish his name. It's usually the young, hot, up and coming assistants like a Knobloch or I don't want to use the word retread, but like just an established name who's won a cup or had success or whatever. Speaking of established names, here's the name I want to throw out there as a one that the more you think about it, the timing and the fit could make sense. Mike Sullivan.
Wow.
He's like best friends with Torts. You see that his time in Pittsburgh is probably coming to an end soon.
They kind of already hired his replacement.
I'm just saying, if let's say Mike Sullivan gets axed either midway through this season or at the end of the season, does John Tortorella say, "This is the guy I'm cool to pass the baton to and move upstairs for"? I'm just saying, it makes some sense.
I really, really like Mike Sullivan. Like watching what that team was before they brought him on and how stupid they were. Just like the dumbest bunch of morons running around out there. I'm like, why can't you beat the Flyers? You are so much better than the Flyers. Yeah. And then Mike Sullivan comes, he's like, they're going to try to do some crazy shit. If you just ignore them and we have the puck the whole game, we are going to score goals on top of goals. And that's what happened. I like Mike Sullivan a lot. I have this thing, though. You know who wins cups with multiple teams? Nobody. Scotty Bowman.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
Like, I realize, like, trends are trends, and, like, do they actually matter? Who knows? But, like, it doesn't happen. I want our next guy.
Okay.
Like, I want the dude that coaches this team in a couple of years. Like, 10 years from now, some team hires him, and it's like the people in that town are having this conversation. Right. Like, great fucking coach, won some cups in Philly, but is he Scotty Bowman?
Right.
Yeah, like, I want that, but
reasonable.
I'll take anyone.
I'm just throwing out the name because
he's an awesome guy. I like Mike Sullivan a lot.
The timing could line up. There's an existing relationship with Tortorella, and it would fit the Flyers' tendency towards hiring big names with track records of success. Just saying.
I'm fine with it. All right. Let's get to the next super chat from Willie Whitmore. If Matvei Michkov is the Flyers' face of the franchise, what do you envision his captaincy future?
No.
Do you think if Lawton moves on, he wears an A? Can you see a world where he gets the C before Coots' deal ends?
No.
They're never taking the C off of Coots.
I thought we were done with captain talk.
Unless Coots,
I thought I was free of this bullshit.
I want to just...
Willie Witt, why did you do this to me?
I want to just, with the last part, can you see a world where he gets the C before the Coots deal ends? I don't see a world in which they take the C off of Couturier unless he's on like LTIR for the final 3 years of his deal or something.
I would agree with that.
Like, I guess then, sure. But even like, it took a year to get the C off of Pronger and he was never coming back. You know?
True.
I just don't see that part happening. Personally, he's the face of the franchise, and I've even said that. Marketability wise, like, man, they're gonna go with a Canadian or an American.
I don't know. Look, I don't think I don't think this would happen. I don't think this would happen right away. But Ovechkin eventually did get the C. It took a lot of time. He eventually got the C.
I get it.
Because he was the face of the franchise and an NHL superstar. And it was like, well, everybody looks to him anyway. I guess he's the captain. This would not happen anytime soon, even if Matvei Michkov in the next 1 to 2 years establishes himself as one of the best players in the NHL. It's not going to happen anytime soon.
I personally just want the next cat, and hopefully we're never having this conversation for like 7 more years. I'm totally cool with the best player not being the captain. I really don't want it.
Always been in favor of that. After watching the bullshit that these crazy fans put Claude Giroux through, I am done with the best player being the captain. Done with it.
I don't want Michkov to have to deal with that. Just score a bunch of goals.
Exactly. Just be a great player.
Yeah.
Don't deal with the crazy fans who blame everything on the captain.
After my theory of putting the C on the best player so he develops a relationship with the referees and gets the calls was crazy misproven by Claude Giroux. Never got the superstar calls.
Never did.
Like, you were allowed to hook Claude Giroux. It was just part of the rules. Like, it's cool.
Yeah. Allowed to break his wrist.
You're allowed to check him from behind. Yep. It's fine. That clearly doesn't work. I want a Jason Smith style captain. Make it just the grizzled old vet. Let's have a new captain every year. Just a dude we bring in for 1 year to be a leader. Like, that's fine. I would be surprised if Michkov ever wears the C. That's where all right. Next one from.
I got like 4 months without captain questions. Like 4 months, maybe.
It's July, or it's August 1st, man.
Oh, boy.
Nothing happening. From Hat-Trick Patrick. All right, he's back. Second day.
Patrick.
Montreal's still hurt by the head pat on Suzuki.
Oh, yeah. Who was that? Wasn't that
Derek Grant.
Derek Grant. Yes, it was Derek Grant.
And it all started because he did it to Carter Hart.
Yeah.
But he did it, Derek Grant did it in the handshake line.
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was in the handshake line.
It wasn't in the handshake line?
It was at the buzzer.
It was at the buzzer?
And then he just went over to him and tapped him on the head as revenge.
I said this to someone on Twitter. That is the Flyers highlight post cancellation of 2020 season to now.
Yeah.
The head pat is probably the greatest thing that has happened for the Flyers. And I mean, like, they won a playoff series.
Only playoff series they've won in the last 12 years.
Yeah. Like, that head pat to me
and no one was there to watch it in person.
An all-time Flyers moment, at least like
good.
2020 to present.
It was good.
Maybe that's what it's all about. And Patrick might be on to something. And the last one here from Danny Beans.
This is a little hit in the tip jar. Thank you, Danny Beans.
$2 for Chuck. Keep up the good work, boys.
Good work, boys.
When I saw that one pop up earlier, I thought it was just like a Chuck Fletcher celebration. Like, oh, double suck.
Maybe it is for a Chuck Fletcher
he said
celebration.
Keep up the good work, boys. Okay, so I guess it's to you, but it's for you. I guess you get these $2 because it's specified.
Yeah, well, I mean, there can only be one Chuck in this town.
We'll hit up
and
Vince.
It's me.
We'll hit up Vince to see if he has $2 to give you. All right, and that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. Before we get out of here, I want to announce, I was like, oh yeah, at the end of today's show, I said yesterday, we're going to tell you what the movie is for next week, and then I never actually did it.
Right.
Mystery Alaska held on.
Okay,
it narrowly beat out the Mighty Ducks there. Of course.
Actually, pretty close voting.
Yeah, pretty good. So for next Tuesday, Reviews Day, coming up next Tuesday, we're going to be talking about Mystery Alaska. There's a good chance we do the Ducks like 2-3 weeks from now. It is Mystery Alaska coming up. All right, and now that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, you got to hit that subscribe button. Follow us right here on YouTube. Set those reminders. Never miss a live show. We'll be back tomorrow for F Around Friday, and I believe Kelly Hinkle will be joining us.
Yeah.
And I haven't threatened the listeners in a while. I was checking out our Apple Podcast page the other day. The reviews have slowed. Let's pick it up here. I know we have a bunch of new listeners. Go to your podcast, whether you listen on Spotify, you listen on Apple, whatever it is. Give us the thumbs up. Give us the 5 stars. Write some nice words. It won't take more than 40 seconds out of your day. Come on.
Would be much appreciated.
What are we doing here? Give us some goddamn 5-star reviews. All right, that's that. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. My name's Bill Batts. That's Charlie O'Connor. Until tomorrow, you stay loose and sexy, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.